Steven Universe and all associated images are property of Cartoon Network, Rebecca Sugar, and any and all other respective owners. I don't know them all. All footage in this video has been used for the purpose of critique parody under fair use. Please support the official release. The summer of Steven has been pretty great so far. There are a couple episodes that I would call duds, but for the most part, the stories have been great and have expanded the lore of the series quite a bit. I mentioned in last week's theory that the episodes that we have seen so far have given me a lot to think about, and that is absolutely true. And it may surprise you to know that that is hardly truer of any episode than it is of Too Short to Ride. The episode didn't end up being what I expected it to be, but in a lot of ways it ended up being so much better. Specifically because we learned something very interesting about Peridots and the politics of Homeworld. In the episode, Peridot claims that due to resource shortages on Homeworld, gems who are made there don't have gem powers. That's the reason why she and other Peridots like herself, other second-era Peridots specifically, are outfitted with mechanical enhancements. We then immediately learn that this is at least in part untrue, and that Peridot has the ability of Ferrokinesis, the ability to manipulate metal with her mind, and that other Era 2 Peridots likely have this ability as well. But I think it goes a lot further than that. I think that Homeworld lied about the exact effect of these resource shortages on gems. And I plan to present evidence in this video that I think supports my assessment and then try to determine why it is that Homeworld would do this. First of all, Peridot's big reveal that she doesn't have gem powers comes after she tries and fails to shapeshift. And of course, her Ferrokinesis ability is not proof that she can shapeshift. But we've already gotten evidence that she can. Gem abilities aren't just some arbitrary thing. They don't exist in their own little bubbles. They're all interrelated, at least the ones that aren't specific to individual gems. Common gem abilities are common because they are extensions of the very nature of gems. There's a reason why the visual effect for reforming and shapeshifting is identical. It doesn't make any sense that a gem that can form a body for itself can't also control how that body looks. In fact, Peridot has already flat out said that she can, when she wondered if it was appropriate for her to start wearing a star on her clothing. Changing her clothing is a form of shapeshifting. Even if she does it through reforming, even if she were to be poofed and then reform with a star on her clothing, she still changed her base form. When a gem reforms, we see something resembling a framework or a mannequin that the traits of the gem are then built upon. Theoretically speaking, anything apart from that mannequin shape is an alteration to the gem's form. The fact that Peridot can create a body for herself that has unique physical traits, and that she can choose new physical traits for that body, means that she can shapeshift. And if you don't believe me just based on that assessment, consider the Centipedal, a corrupted gem, who was able to choose a new form for herself as she was regenerating even after her holographic body had already begun to form. That means that reforming does not have to happen when the gem's holographic body is deactivated. That a gem can choose to permanently reform themselves while they're outside of the gem, so to speak. Isn't that just shapeshifting? Because I don't really see a distinction. So that means that in this instance, Homeworld convinced Peridot that even though she can form a body for herself, even though she can customize the appearance of that body, that she can't shapeshift like other gems, and that just doesn't make any sense. Like I said, abilities that are common to all gems aren't some arbitrary thing. If you have one of them, you have all of them. We can also assume that Peridot can learn to summon a gem weapon. If she can project a body around her gemstone that she can reform, then it doesn't make any sense that she wouldn't be able to project a weapon from her gemstone that she can reform. Once again, these abilities are clearly related to each other. If she can make a body, then she should be able to make a weapon too. And I've been saying for a long time that fusion just seems to be an extension of shapeshifting, so if she can shapeshift, she should be able to fuse as well. And since those are the common gem abilities out of the way, that only leaves gem abilities unique to Peridots themselves, and we've already gotten that one covered. Ferrokinesis. That means that based on visual evidence in the show, there is absolutely nothing to suggest that Era 2 Peridots have any fewer abilities than any other gem. In fact, if resources are dwindling on Homeworld, if that is the reason why Era 2 Peridots are seemingly different than the Era 1 versions, there's already a gem in the series who is likely in exactly the same position, and that's Amethyst. The only reason that I can think of why Amethyst would have been overcooked, why she would have had to stay in the ground longer than everyone else in order to form, is because for some reason she didn't get access to as many resources as the other gems in her kindergarten, and she had to stay in the ground longer in order to absorb enough materials from the ground in order to form. That means that in the instance of a resource shortage, gems become overcooked and get smaller, but they don't lose their abilities. They still have all of the gem powers that any other gem would have, which makes Amethyst herself evidence that Peridot was lied to. But why would Homeworld do this? Why would they try to convince modern gems that are made on Homeworld that they don't have the abilities that other gems do? Well, we have to wonder, is Peridot referring to Homeworld the planet or Homeworld the empire? They don't seem to have names that are distinct from one another. If she's talking about Homeworld the Empire, then that means that all the planets controlled by Homeworld that are suitable for making gems are running out of resources. And I do think that at least that much of what Homeworld told her is true. Gems are often likened to viruses or parasites, creatures that wear out the host and eventually kill it. So it would make sense that eventually the gems would run out of resources on the planets they take, since it's implied pretty heavily that planets capable of sustaining kindergartens are pretty rare. If you remember back in my theory on what Peridot meant by harvesting, I suggested that one of the reasons that Homeworld wants clusters is so that they can destroy planets, break them up into smaller pieces, and more effectively harvest their resources. Is it possible that Homeworld is no longer actively expanding, but instead bringing new resources back to its existing colonies? In some ways that makes more sense than colonizing entire new planets. But the only reason I can think of why they would change their methods like this is if they fear spreading themselves too thin in case of another rebellion. If that is true, then that also explains why they would lie to modern gems about having powers. If they can convince modern gems that they don't have any abilities apart from the mechanical ones that Homeworld gives them, that Homeworld allows them to have as a privilege, then not only would taking those mechanical enhancements away later render those gems effectively powerless, but it gives Homeworld something else to hold over the heads of gems to prevent another uprising. If a group of gems, let's use Peridots as an example, seem to be on the verge of rebellion, Homeworld can just remind them that their mechanical enhancements can be taken away, rendering them powerless. I mean, look at Peridot. Look at how much she cared about her limb enhancers. She's clearly projecting her feelings about her limb enhancers onto the tablet that Steven gave her in Too Short to Ride, and specifically calls the tablet everything that she is. That means that she equates those limb enhancers to everything that was good about herself. It's possible that she developed those feelings on her own, but I find it much more likely that Homeworld instilled those feelings in her and other Peridots as an added measure to help ensure their loyalty. But weirdly enough, I think that Peridot has been using her ferrokinetic abilities all along. I think that all Peridots do. Look at the way the fingers of her limb enhancers float free of the rest of the device. If we assume that her limb enhancers are made of some kind of metal, even if it's a crystalline metal to fit with the whole gem theme, then she might be using her ferrokinetic abilities to manipulate the fingers of her limb enhancers and move them into position to activate their little screens and stuff. If that's not what's happening here, then the limb enhancers were designed with built-in ferrokinetic properties, which just seems like a huge coincidence. Which means that not only was Homeworld lying to Peridot about her lack of abilities, but they were doing so while expecting her to use those abilities in order to serve Homeworld. And that just seems extra underhanded to me. Now, obviously, none of this is for sure. I'm speculating a lot. Especially in the latter half, we can't really guess at the true complexity of Homeworld politics, but I think I'm off to a pretty good start. But guys, what do you think? Have I tapped into my hidden abilities, or has Homeworld managed to deceive me? Let's get a discussion going in the comment section down below, and before I go, I want to ask you guys a question. I've been meaning for a long time to branch out into theories that aren't specifically about Steven Universe. The simple fact is, Steven Universe as a series isn't going to last forever. And while I'm sure even once the series is over, there will still be stuff to talk about, enough so to keep doing theories for a while, I am going to have to find a new focus for this channel eventually. Theorizing about other media could seriously help with that. And I do have a theory that isn't about Steven Universe pretty much ready to go. And I'm considering giving it the old spit and polish and posting it next week as my next Monday theory. What do you guys think about that? Would you be willing to watch theory videos from me every once in a while that aren't about Steven Universe? Are you guys okay with me trying out this new theory next week? Let me know in the comment section down below. Either way, this has been AJ22 and I will talk to you guys later. Do you have a theory idea or merely a musing about the show that you'd like me to discuss? You can head on over to my Facebook page and send me a message detailing your ideas, and if I find them interesting enough, I'll be sure to respond. Or you could head on over to my Tumblr page and send me an ask. If it's not something that I've covered before, I'll be sure to answer. If you are on Facebook or Tumblr, I also recommend that you like and or follow me there as well to keep up to date on all of my content, as well as any supplementary content that I might post on either of those sites. And if you know anyone on Facebook or Tumblr who might find my content interesting, please share it with them. I'd really appreciate it.